interviews and survey is pinaka common na method when we try to validate our assumptions. And the tricky part ng survey is sometimes the data that we're not getting is hindi siya reliable. That's why very important that if we ever do survey, meron tayong parang follow-up na interview para ma-verify natin yung information. And if ever meron tayong mga additional questions, matatanong natin siya during interviews. But anyways, customer interviews, meron na dun sa customer discovery template din na kapag identify na kayo ng kunwari 10 people, then sila yung when we try to come up with our customer interview plan later, sila yung dapat isipin natin na sila yung tatanungin natin. So dapat ma-align natin yung yung thought processing natin later when we're planning our customer interviews. Okay, sige. So I think we can go to the next slide. So when you do interview, and I think I mentioned this, that it's our job to make sure na yung respondent natin or the person that we're interviewing is comfortable and nabibigay natin yung vibes that it is okay if hindi man sila mag-agree sa mga sinasabi natin. So you have to make sure that if ever mag-interview kayo in the future, okay, parang mapakita nyo sa kanila that okay lang if mag-disagree sila sa inyo. Like, hindi kayo magagalit if that will be the case. Kasi, if hindi mo yan mapapakita, then para lang din yung survey na hindi nila ibibigay yung sagot dahil yun talaga yung totoo, but rather, yun lang yung parang they think is ano yung gusto mong marinig. So, we have to make sure that they can be honest and they can be comfortable with you during the interview. And when you do interview, you have to make sure that naka-ready itong 3 elements, very important elements in doing an interview. A goal, an objective, and a clear flow. So, before going to an actual interview, you should be clear, no? Bakit ka mag-i-interview? What are you expecting to get out of that interview? So, usually, nag-i-interview tayo because we want to get clarity or confirmation on specific information or specific assumptions natin. But if you have other goals in mind, you have to list it down, no? Because this goal will actually help you determine naman your specific objectives, which is the second element. And objectives na mention na to ni Proche a while ago. So when setting up an objective for your interviews, you should set it to 3, maximum na yan. Hindi siya pwedeng lumagpas ng 4 or 5. Bakit? Kasi if lumagpas na yun ng 4, then sobrang dami mo na ring tanong. So, an objective kasi is equivalent to questions. Kasi for example, if one of your objectives is you want to understand their problem, then you have to parang come up with 2 to 3 questions that will allow you to uncover ano man yung problema nila. So, if you have 4 or more objectives, then madadagdagan din yung questions nila. And that is a problem. Kasi, if sobrang dami din nating questions, ma-overwhelm yung respondents natin and hindi na siya magiging reliable, ma-overwhelm na siya at of course, it can cause discomfort and we don't want that kasi we want them to be comfortable again and to give us insights, critical insights talaga na makakatulong sa atin in our product development. So, kaya dapat 3 objectives lang. If 1 lang yung objective mo, then okay. If 2 objectives, then okay. If 3, okay. Pero wag na nating i-go over sa 3 objectives. And also make sure no that when you're doing interview, you try to get the customer reality. So when we talk about customer reality, it means nako-confirm natin the reality of the existence or the inexistence of the problem dun sa customer mo sa experience nila or sa parang daily routines nila. So, kailangan natin siyang makuha. And then last is, you should have a clear flow. So, basically, ito yung parang plan mo on how you are going to extract information from your respondent. And typically, this is done with a lineup of your questions. So, they should also be clear, no, that while you're doing interviews and all other validation methods to validate your assumptions, be open, no, that there is really a possibility that you are validating to invalidate your assumptions. Baka makita mo during your validation activity na hindi naman pala talaga yun yung problema and that is okay. Again, hindi man parang nag-pivot man yung parang reaction or result dun sa validation board nyo, the good thing is nalaman nyo kung ano ba talaga yung problem. So, but yes. Alright, so I think we can go to the next slide. And bago ako magpakita ng para example ng questions list, just some reminders no when you do your customer interviews or when you plan for your interviews. Do focus on the problem and not on the solution. Again, especially if you are in the first stage validation, you are still trying to validate your problem hypothesis. You're still trying to build up your case and proving talaga that the problem is really existing or not existing. So your questions should have to be around the problem and do not introduce or give hints about your solutions yet. Pero if you're doing a stage 2, then that is okay. But if you're still doing stage 1 validation, focus muna sa problem. Make sure that you also have an agile mindset and open-minded ka kasi there will always be parang new information that will come to light na hindi mo ine-expect na makuha mo out of the interview. So you have to be open-minded and still receive that kind of information. And make sure also that you hear things out kahit na hindi siya part ng plan mo but you think is still relevant kung sa goal and objectives mo. Because makakakuha ka pa rin ng parang learnings from that. Also listen very well and learn. So make sure that you focus on listening and learning rather than them talking to you, rather than you talking to them. Dapat when you're doing interview, dapat sila yung mas nagsasalita rather than you. Kasi ikaw yung gustong kumuha ng information sa kanila, hindi sila yung kukuha ng information from you. And then, if you can, no, and with permission, you can record the conversation kasi this will help you really focus on listening talaga and not taking notes. So for example, no, if we're doing this parang Zoom webinar, then at hindi siya naka-record at hindi namin ibibigay yung slides, for example, sa inyo, then you have to really take notes kasi baka mag-quiz si Sir Jessica. So parang ganun. So if there is a record, then you can just focus on listening talaga and really trying to understand what we are saying in this parang workshop. And then lastly, before you end the conversation, make sure that you summarize everything para lang alam mo that the way you understand yung points niya is yun talaga yung parang ibig niyong sabihin. Parang you have to make sure that you both are on the same page. And then what not to do naman when you're doing interviews is do not be too stiff on the script. So yung script nyo dito is yung questions nyo. They are not taking an exam. So it's okay that you ask questions that is not part of the list. But make sure that yung question na tinatanong mo is still part doon sa goals and objectives mo. And don't also ask leading questions. For example, dito is if ever yung problem nyo doon sa, kunwari doon sa power interruption, wag natin silang tanungin na gaano kakagalit nung nawalan ng kuryente. So, kasi when we are asking that questions, we're already implying that they have to be angry. That yung dapat na reaction nila when there is power interruption is angry. So, that's a leading question. Kasi we are kind of parang imposing the emotion that they have to feel in certain circumstances. So, instead of asking gaano kakagalit, then you can just ask what did you feel nung nawala yung kuryente? Parang ganun. Kasi in the first place, hindi naman natin alam kung nagalit ba talaga sila or parang wala naman pala silang kakaalam. Parang ganun. Anyways, so I think we can go to the next slide. And here, meron tayong example of a parang planner or questions list. So hindi ko na siya iisa-isahin pa, but this first example is for smarter meter again, yung example natin for B2C. And yung goal nila or yung objectives nila is they want to confirm. So again, balikan natin yung discussion ni Prof. Shek kanina, dapat verb. Yung gumamit tayo ng verb when we're trying to come up with objectives. So sila smarter meter, they want to confirm that households wants to have other means of monitoring their energy consumption and not just rely on the end of month bill. So, and then second one is they want to affirm that possible discrepancy of energy bill and actual consumption worries the household owners kasi baka si Vani lang pala yung may ganun na worry na baka the other households wala palang ganun. Hindi pala sila nag-worry na merong possibility of discrepancy. And then they also want to check if they are looking for potential solutions to the issue. So, if you can see, etong mga objectives na to, nagre-relate siya dito din sa mga questions na itatanong nila. So, there are questions here that would allow Smarter Meter to confirm if these household owners or the respondents are looking for other ways to monitor their consumption, or there is a way then for them to see if the other households or other customers are worrying about the possible discrepancy. And also there is a question there that allows them to check if these household owners are looking for potential solutions. So yung objectives nyo, kailangan nyo siyang i-translate into questions. And yung questions na yun, yung mga possible answers would have to parang create answers dun sa objectives na sinet nyo early on. So, starter questions, basically, these are questions that would, parang ito lang yung mga questions to build rapport with your respondents. You can ask them about their career, about their hobbies. So, pang icebreaker, kumbaga, parang ganon. But, smart thing na ginawa nila Smarter Meter is that hindi siya sobrang serious agad na question, pero still related siya dun sa objectives nila. So they started the question or the interview with asking, ano yung monthly electricity bill nila for the past certain months, and how did they feel about their electricity bill. So hindi man siya parang, kahit na parang pang icebreaker lang siya, it's still a very good question kasi parang nabibuild up na nila yung parang next questions nila for the interview. So I hope you can also get that parang tip or parang strategy. And so inside questions, these are questions that will allow you to understand what they feel about the problem na gusto niyo i-solve, or what do they think about it. Parang ganun. The difficult questions, these are questions that will really allow you to understand if they come up with solutions on their own, ano yung type of solutions na gusto nila. But you have to make sure, again, that yung questions mo, nag-a-align siya doon sa objectives mo. Kaya, you have to follow yung parang criteria kanina na parang clear goal, kasi yung goal mo, magta-translate siya into objectives, at yung objectives mo, magta-translate din siya into questions. So, if una nyo i-identify muna bakit kayo mag-i-interview, and then, next nyo i-identify ano yung gusto nyo makuha out of that interview. Kasi if clear sa inyo kung ano yung gusto nyo makuha out of that interview, then madali na lang sa inyo to come up with questions. So I hope you remember that when you do your questions list later. So that's for Smarter Meter na questions list. If we can go to the next slide. Ito naman is for Hive Energy PH. So again, hindi ko siya i-breakdown, pero again, identify the goal, and then after the goal, bakit kayo mag-i-interview, and then that objectives will give you an idea what questions to ask. And yes, at hindi naman necessary talaga i-complete nyo lahat ng space no for insights. Hindi naman necessary na 4. If you just want to ask 3 questions, then go. But if you want to ask 5 questions, okay lang din. You can definitely add rows or delete some rows na hindi naman necessary dun sa template.